You're listening to Scheduling Sin with me, Snowmill. I stripped down completely naked, and Mr. Snow again restrained me on that St. Andrew's cross. And I tell you what, being completely naked, completely exposed, without having any control, because my hands were restrained.
Are you ready?
I'm always ready, baby.
Hello, Mrs. Snow.
Well, hello, Mr. Snow.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited about kind of sharing our experience, our part 2 of our awesome Friday evening.
Yeah, so this is part 2 of our Friday night. The first part was the previous episode where we did our boudoir photography shoot.
Right.
With Bridget.
Which we still have not gotten those pictures yet, and I am so anxiously awaiting them.
Well,
so
hopefully
excited.
by the time this episode airs, we'll have them, and you all will have seen them. I'm thinking about putting up a gallery of the ones that we can on our website. So,
okay.
So keep an eye out for that.
Yeah.
But to set the stage, in case you didn't listen to the previous episode, and if not, shame on you.
Right, shame.
We just finished our boudoir photography shoot. We had just left.
Yeah.
And we went out, we got some dinner. Great Mexican place.
It was just kind of a random stop. In fact, I think we were looking for another place, and then we found that place on the way, and it was really good.
Yeah. Great margaritas.
Really good margaritas.
Honestly, some of the best and most fun experiences that you can have are the ones you have by accident.
Oh, yeah.
And that was kind of the case there. So we went out, we had a great dinner.
Mm-hmm.
We were really, really revved up.
Well, I think, when you spend, it must have been every bit of 2 hours getting makeup up and hair done and changing into all of the fun panties and outfits and sexy poses. That's talk about foreplay. That's
a huge foreplay.
In fact, I'm pretty sure I told you when we left the photo shoot that I was pretty wet.
Soaking wet.
I was pretty yeah. Some of the poses that she had me in, and because obviously there were some that were just me, but then there were some of you and I. There was actually a couple photos of you kind of sucking on my tits, and and so what was interesting about it is, as sexual as it was, that wasn't in my more forefront because it was a photo shoot, right? Like it wasn't a sex session that we would typically have, right? Whereas typically in that moment, if you were to do that, like it would then escalate to the next thing, right? But clearly this was solely just for the photo. And so it was almost like a tease. Like, here you go, you get to play a little, and then now we have to switch gears.
It absolutely was. Yeah. I will say this, like if she had said, okay, guys, go for it, I would have just absolutely taken you right there.
Yeah, you were funny. We were kind of playing with that, and we were kind of holding each other, and you were rubbing on me and kissing me, and she's like, okay, next shot. And you're like, no, I'm not done. I'm not done. Give me minutes.
Not done yet. Oh my gosh. So I couldn't believe that I did not expect to be anywhere near so comfortable. As
she really said that,
being in front of the camera.
Yeah.
But, and I don't know, I still don't know if I would be doing it by myself, but doing it with you, oh man. Guys, if you've never thought about being in boudoir photography, and you probably need to find a lifestyle type photographer like we did.
You definitely need to find
really
someone who's experienced, because she was, I've been in, and maybe it's apples and oranges, but I don't think it's that big of a comparison. We've done a lot of like family photos and family photo shoots, but you can also tell the caliber of the photographer just based on their personality, how they take pictures, how they kind of set stuff up. We've had experiences where some of the photographers we've worked with have been very, like, they just are trying so hard
almost
to get
mechanical.
The perfect shot. And Bridget just was so natural.
So free flowing.
She just went with it. And I think those photographers take the best photos.
I think so too, because they get the most natural situations.
Yeah, they don't they're not trying to
fake.
Control every little piece.
Exactly.
And so I think if you were to do any photography, obviously if you're going to do boudoir, you want somebody who's got some experience in that, just because I think she made us feel so comfortable. It was not, it was very natural. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, her company is B. Yates Photography, just north of Columbus, Ohio. You can look her up, but her links are on our previous episode's show notes.
And we can put them on this one too.
And they are absolutely available on like our Twitter and a Discord and stuff like that. So if you would like to reach out to Bridget, please, please, please let us know.
Yeah.
And we'll connect you. But what happened after we left Bridget's place? We went out.
We went
got
to
some
dinner.
We went back to the hotel.
We went back to the hotel, which Mr. Snow got a very nice hotel. That was very nice. I will say the night we were there, it was ridiculously cold.
It was super cold.
So cold, very windy. Otherwise, we would have probably walked around a little bit downtown, but it just wasn't going to work with the weather. But the hotel was a gorgeous hotel. And so we got up to the room, and I tend to tease Mr. Snow. And we were planning on going out to this club. And we'll talk about that in a little bit more detail here in a minute. We were planning on going out to this club, and we have gone out to clubs, and we did the hotel party, months ago, and we kind of told each other like we have to pace ourselves.
We can't pre-fuck.
Right. And so, but you say that, but then you spend, 2 hours watching me take these photos, and I'm naked prancing around in lingerie, and you're rubbing on me and kissing me. And I mean, we were pretty revved up. And then Mr. Snow says things to me like, we can't do this. I'm not going to fuck you. I'm not going to fuck you. And I'm like, the hell you aren't. And so I tease him, and then he gives in, and I win.
Yes. So we went at least 1, maybe 2 rounds at the hotel.
Yeah.
And the problem with pre-fucking.
Sorry, not sorry.
Sorry, not sorry. The problem with pre-fucking is that it kind of reduces, I don't know, it reduces like the energy or whatever for the rest of the night. But
doesn't it take some of the edge off?
No, I wouldn't say it takes the edge off. I loved it. Don't get me wrong. I didn't hate it at all, but it's like, gosh, dang it. I want to save it. You know what I mean? But that's okay. We made up for it later. So we
did.
Got an Uber, jumped in this Uber, and we're going to this club. And the club that we went to was in Columbus, and it was called Club Princeton in Columbus, Ohio. And obviously we went there because we were in town to see Bridget.
Right.
And we wanted to go to a club that night, and sure enough, that was there. So we get in, and this club had been recommended to us by several people.
Mm-hmm.
And
we were supposed to go with some friends.
Yeah, Joe and Alex were supposed to go.
Then I think Joe got sick.
Yeah,
and
Joe
then our other friends
sick.
couldn't make it because they had something else come up, or they were not feeling well, or something happened.
Life stuff,
Yeah, life. Yeah,
right? It's the whole theme of the show. So we were still like, okay, we're still gonna go.
Oh yeah.
So we get in this Uber, and they're taking us out of downtown Columbus,
right,
into this area that's like a residential area.
I'm like, where he's
dark.
taking us to some random street. Like, where are we going?
I'm not gonna lie, the area, I don't know. I'm sure in the daytime it's fine, but like at night it just seemed pretty sketchy. Pretty sketchy.
Little sketch.
And we're kind of like,
And it's this very nondescriptive kind of building.
Right.
I mean, it looks like a warehouse from the outside almost, like very industrial looking. And I'm like, where the fuck are we going?
Right. But you know what? We dropped out of the Uber in the parking lot, and we headed for the door. And honestly, I felt better immediately because the door opened up, and there was this really nice guy in a shirt and tie, big smile on his face, super welcoming right from the beginning.
Right. It was kind of,
and I was like, okay, I feel better, as we walked into this club.
I think you're right. Once that door opened, and you could kind of see that it was not like this crazy sketchy place. Very welcoming. So it worked out well.
Very welcoming.
Mm-hmm.
We met a guy named Kenny there.
Yeah.
Who was kind of hosting the night.
Well, I think I don't think he owns it. I think he just works there.
Yeah, I think
he and his wife.
Yeah, he and his wife. His wife was a bartender.
Yeah, but I think he just is kind of part of the welcoming wagon, right? Like he kind of walked us around, and it was a really nice club. Like it actually was a really cool club. There's a lot of cool parts about it and cool little areas, and it really was cool. It was nice.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. So the layout of this club, when you walk in the front door, immediately to your left is the little check-in booth, with the person who kind of checks, because you pay in advance for these parties and they sign you in and everything else. And then to your left is a bar. And at this particular one, and this is fairly common, it's BYOB, but there is a bartender and they have like mixers and stuff like that. So
they don't have liquor licenses, so that's how they get around.
Exactly. So you bring your own liquor and they'll give you like a number, right? And they'll number your bottles and then they'll serve you throughout the course of the night, right? Which is really nice. You don't think about this, but it's really nice because you don't have to worry about anybody doing anything to your. Well,
you
to
pour
your
own drinks. Like,
they give you a cup. They keep it behind the bar.
Yeah, they give you a cup of Coke or soda or whatever you want with your mixer.
Club soda or whatever kind of mixer you want, and then you pour it and then you give it back to them. But it's nice because it's very secure.
Yeah,
you don't have to worry about the safety aspect with that, and that really is kind of a really nice thing. And in that bar area were several people just kind of hanging out at the bar. We got there fairly early in terms of lifestyle club times. It was like 9:30, I think, when we walked in, give or take. And our host gave us a tour from the little lobby area. You turn left and you go down into a few steps down, and there's the restrooms and stuff are all right there. But then immediately past that is a sign that says single males have to be escorted from this point forward, which is nice.
Right.
And they had to the right up a few steps, they had a big porn viewing area.
Yeah.
And there were like some seats and stuff up there.
There was a couch, I think, up there and a couple chairs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was kind of like movie theater style seating.
It was.
in this little, and it wasn't like really big, but it was big enough. And they had, like projection porn going on. And then down from there, you walked a little bit further down and they had some really interesting rooms I had never seen in a club before.
So after we'd go past the bathroom, like the women's and the men's, they had on the right side there was this big room with like 3 beds, but it was like a stair step kind of thing. Right, there was a lower side bed and then one that was a little higher and then one was a little higher.
Yeah,
but it was just like a small room with like 3 beds and then a big window that you could kind of watch.
Right.
To the left was kind of this cutout area with there was I don't know what it's called, but it was like a bench.
Yeah, it was not a spanking bench. It was a I don't even know what you would describe it. It
almost looks like, I don't even want to use this phrase.
Just say it.
It almost looks like stirrups that you would have at like a doctor's office.
Yeah, but it wasn't like a
hospital
bed.
Yeah,
it was like
but it was
made of bars and stuff. And
right.
A woman, I suppose you could do different positions on it, but a woman could lay down on her back
and then put her legs up,
put her feet.
Yeah,
and then there was like a little bit lower, and in front of that there was some padded seating, so like a person could sit in front of her.
Right. He smiles with this grin on his face, and then next to that was a St. Andrew's cross.
Yeah,
with the restraints for the hands.
Yeah, which for anyone who's not familiar, a St. Andrew's cross is what you might see in the BDSM world. It's that great big X.
Right.
And this one was a relatively basic one compared to some of the ones that I've seen that can get pretty intricate.
Yeah.
But this one was a large X, and it had like metal grommets at the top.
Yeah.
Down to these, they were Velcro wrist restraints that were dangling there.
Yeah.
And at the bottom, this I thought was kind of a cool touch. On the floor, directly in front of it, was a mirror.
Yeah.
I thought that was a pretty cool touch.
Yeah, we'll get back to that in just a second.
Yeah,
but, so you keep going.
Well, no, across, we got to talk about the room across from that with the glory holes.
Oh, I forgot about the glory holes. Yeah, that was kind of around the corner, wasn't it? And so this one, oh my gosh, there's so many things in this club. They had a male version of a glory hole and a female version of a glory hole, which I had never seen a female version. And to me, that I still don't, part of me, I don't I kind of get, but I don't get. So obviously the male version is a wall with a hole in it that you could obviously stick your dick in, and someone's on the other side and they could be sucking it or whatever, whatever it is. Right.
Yeah.
And then the female version is like there's a wall and there's like a bench that kind of comes up to the wall.
Like you lay down on
You
it.
lay down on it, but you kind of scooch your butt. If the woman would scooch her butt up to the edge of that bench, which would be edge of that.
No, you go through it. So there's the wall and there's the big square hole in the wall.
Oh, so your legs
and
go through.
You lay all the way through it, right? But your butt is just on the other side.
Right. So you can't see who's on the other side of the
exactly.
wall.
And then there were on like the male side of that, there were these hooks and these large like not really restraints, but like supports for like your thighs.
Yeah.
So like you would be laying on your back in this thing with your ass through this hole.
Yeah.
And then you could take your legs and lift them up and then kind of hook them on these thigh restraint things. Right. And then you could just lay there and get fucked by whomever is on the other side.
Which, I mean, like when I first think of like glory holes, I don't really get glory holes. Like initially I'm like, I don't really, doesn't do anything for me. But you know, the more and more I think about it, I mean, that's pretty hot.
It is pretty hot.
It is pretty hot. Part of what I enjoy is watching the man fuck me.
Right.
Right. So if you take that piece away, but maybe it loses something for me, but maybe it's something else.
Well, let's put it this way. I think it's something that it would be worth trying, but not in a sense of like, you know, like it's just a free for all.
Yeah, I wouldn't want it to be like super random.
With a person, like if you had a play partner, I think it would be worth going in there and being like, hey, let's try it.
Or maybe even like two people.
Yeah.
You wouldn't necessarily which one it is. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah. That would be kind of fun.
Yeah.
You could almost play like, you know, guess the dick.
Guess the dick.
Could be fun.
Dick number one.
Could be a fun party game. Here's dick number. Yeah.
Dick number one.
There you go. Dick number 1, dick number 2, dick number 3.
Yeah, but I feel like that is welcoming a problem. Like,
it could be
which dick am I? Are you dick number 2? No, I was dick number 3. Like that's let's not.
I really like dick number 2. Which one were you? Not that one.
Not that one. Awkward.
Yeah. Okay. So that's dangerous.
Yeah.
And then they had, but this is the one that really kind of got me. I had seen. First of all, I've never seen glory holes of any kind in person, so that was kind of fun to see them in person. But then this other thing, I don't even know what you call this. It was sort of adjacent to the glory holes that were there.
Yeah.
But it was kind of like a wall, but it was on an angle. So I'm trying to think best how to describe this. So it was like imagine like a board, like a piece of plywood, essentially, that's on like a 40-degree angle, okay, from the floor to the ceiling. And there are little steps that go up this board. And a little ways up, there's a seat, a padded seat. And then further up, there are 2 handrails.
Right.
There. And we did not see this in use, but it only makes sense to me that a woman could go up there, or I guess a guy, and sit on the seat and be like basically eye level or face level for like eating you out or something like that.
Yeah, it definitely was an opportunity to kind of be open and exposed.
Very exposed.
Yeah.
Like very exposed.
Yeah.
Which is exciting. The only thing about it was it's very exposed, but it's also kind of hidden away in a corner. So it's a little of both for that one.
Right.
But I've never seen a club yet that, well, that's not true. The first club we went to had a pretty good BDSM area, but that was a pretty well equipped BDSM.
What's
area.
funny about that is our first club experience that had that red room, that had those things. I think I was so overwhelmed at the time. I had no idea what I was even looking at, so I couldn't even tell you what was there. But now that we've had more experience and just kind of just kind of understanding a little bit more of that,
Right.
I would have taken more notice of what it was.
Yeah.
But at the time, it was like, oh, that's just a random thing.
Yeah.
Not realizing really what it was.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So a little further down from this area were several rooms.
Yeah, like individual little rooms.
Yep. And these rooms have doors, and on the doors, and then they have windows also. And on the doors and the windows, they have blinds.
Mm-hmm.
So you can, at your choice, you can either leave all the windows open and leave the door closed. You can leave the door open and the windows open, or you can close it all at whatever your discretion. And
that was where like you had more private.
Yes, those were kind of the private rooms. And
Yeah.
the etiquette on those is that if the door is open, you're allowed to come to the door and kind of say hi and watch and stuff. If the doors are closed, you're supposed to just leave them alone.
Right.
And that's pretty much a
and
universal rule.
some of the doors had windows in them that had blinds.
Exactly.
And so some people like left their blinds open.
Yeah, and if the blinds are open, you're welcome to watch, and then go, and that was probably, what was that, like 4 or 5 rooms that were right in that little area.
And it was like a big circle.
Yeah, and it was kind of nice because in the lounge area of that section, there was like a stripper pole and some like comfortable couch seating and stuff like that. So that area could be a lot of fun.
And play is at this club. Play was, you could do play absolutely anywhere and everywhere. There was only one room that you couldn't.
Yes, and that was what they call the social media room. This I thought was super cool. So they have, like most clubs, the rule that you're not allowed to have your phone out and about in the club.
Right. Which I appreciate so much of, because I think it just, I mean, especially for people that, I mean, I think the overall thought is discretion.
Yes.
Right. And so they're very good about, no one has their phones out. You can't take pictures. Even if it's an innocent enough picture, like you just can't do it.
Well, yeah. But you know what I thought about this club that I really appreciated was they were smart enough to understand that even though this rule exists, people are still going to want some place where they can do that stuff.
Yeah, they might need to text somebody or whatever.
Or even take pictures and video and stuff.
Right.
There was one room that there was a bed in there.
Although they said no play in that room.
They said you can't play in that room, but it was available for phone use, right? So you could go in there and do whatever it is you were going to do on your phone.
Yeah.
And then they had a little adjacent to the private room area, another more larger lobby area that had its own small bar.
Yeah.
There. And what I can only describe as just an orgy room.
Oh, it was amazing. It was amazing. It was this huge room. And I have to stop and think, how many beds were in that room?
There had to be at least 14 beds in there.
It was awesome.
So
there was like beds around the edge.
Yeah.
And then there was like this main bed. It was
which
like
had a circle in the middle.
Right. It was like a spoke.
Yeah.
Like a like a wheel and spoke thing. And there was like 5 beds around. And it was all open.
Right.
It was that was by far one of my favorite little rooms.
That's a hot room.
It's a hot room.
That is a hot room.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're an exhibitionist, that is
right.
That is
and from
room.
the lobby, there was all the windows that you could just stand and watch. And what was nice about this club is there were areas that were specifically for couples. You could have a single male there, but the single male had to be escorted past certain points. So for that room, a single male could stand at the bar and watch into that room, but in order to go into that room, they had to be escorted.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was kind of cool that single males were allowed back into that lobby section.
Right.
That was pretty cool.
It was the private room and the play area that single males had to be escorted.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And into that orgy room.
Right.
Yeah. And then, so this whole club is kind of laid out like a circle.
Yeah.
So to reorient you, when we walked in, we made a turn to the left and went through these various rooms. And we've kind of been turning to the right as we're going through these rooms. And then as you continue on, there's a little locker room, even with showers, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Big shower area and lockers and stuff. And then beyond that, dropped you back out into the big lobby dance floor area.
Yeah, with a lot of tables
and chairs
and
and
couches
comfortable
and,
chairs and all that kind of stuff. and then back around to the bar.
To that main bar, yeah.
So the night that we went, unfortunately, they had just had a great big party the weekend before, and the weather was terrible.
Yeah, so it wasn't as busy as we would have liked.
It was a little bit quiet. In fact, it was really quite quiet that night, which we don't fault the club for. That just happens sometimes.
Yeah.
That's not a big deal. But the folks that were there, for the most part, were kind of regulars, which was kind of fun because we did talk to the folks at the bar and kind of talk to some of them, and they were fun to hang out with.
Yeah, we learned about. Oh no, that was with Bridget. We learned about the fish hook.
We shared our knowledge.
Was it the fish hook? What was it called? The
no,
ass hook?
Anal hooks.
Anal hooks.
We shared
that with our friends.
Our newfound knowledge that you learned with us in the previous episode about anal hooks.
Right.
We shared that with the folks at the club, and everybody just laughed and smiled and said, there's a never-ending amount of stuff out there.
Yeah, there's something for everybody.
There is something for everybody. So after a fair amount of just kind of walking around and exploring the club and talking to some people, we did to kind of wander off a little bit.
We did. We were initially we weren't, I don't think we were looking for, but we definitely were open to playing with other couples or at least engaging in some type of interaction with others.
Yeah.
And there were a couple, like one or two single males around. There was one guy in particular that I think he just looked like a deer in headlights. He just looked terrified. He was watching me and watching a couple of the other women that were, as we kind of engaged in some public play, and I tried to be kind of friendly and kind of flirt with them, and I said, "Hey, do you see what you like?" And he's like, "Man, I just go with the flow." And I'm like, "Oh, you're so sad," and she's just very. So I don't know if he was nervous or what. There was a point in the evening that I literally was naked. I was just completely naked because Mr. Snow and I had been going at it in that public playroom. Wow. As I sit here and talk about this, I have really evolved. Like, here I am at the club. I'm just standing naked talking to some random single guy. Like, who am I? Like, what is happening? You love it. And, I kind of was trying to engage with him a little bit, and it just didn't seem to go anywhere. So
I think he was very nervous.
Yeah.
This kind of, honestly, I thought back a lot to our conversation with Gav.
Yeah.
And I get the impression that he was having a really hard time, sort of gathering up the courage to really talk to people.
Yeah.
You definitely engaged with him. I even talked to him a little bit, and he almost seemed kind of nervous to talk to us, and that's okay. Everybody's at different places with this.
Yeah.
So, we just let that go.
Yeah.
But well before any of that happened,
yeah,
we wandered off and we decided we were going to try this St. Andrew's cross a little bit.
Right. And I was wearing just a pair of jeans and a nice top.
Yeah. Cause the theme that night was tight ass
jeans. Right. And so initially when we kind of went into where that St. Andrew's cross was, which is something that my initial thought about the St. Andrew's cross, and when you think about BDSM and you think about the whole dom sub dynamic, I always equated that to some type of like hitting, like spanking, flogging. Impact play.
Right.
And that was always kind of I kind of thought they went hand in hand. But that was not the case at all. That wasn't our experience. And we have never really played with impact play. That was not, that's something that we've talked about wanting to explore. But I think just me, and I was fully clothed the first time we went over to that St. Andrew's cross, and Mr. Snow restrained me. He put the little furry, I guess they're leather, restraints, and I'm standing there on this cross with my arms up, and I can move them a little bit, but I can't really move them. And I'm at the first time we did it, because we kind of played with it a little bit, then we went away, and then we came back to it, fully clothed. And, it was a very, I I don't even know what the word is. It was very stimulating. It was a very intense feeling of being not in control of my hands. I couldn't grab Mr. Snow. I couldn't touch him. I couldn't rub on him. I couldn't do those things. So I'm kind of restrained here, and I'm just like, open. Um and it started out with Mr. Snow and I just kissing. Very deep, passionate, intense kissing. And I have to tell you, the juices were flowing, if you will. Like, it was pretty amazing. And we were fully clothed. I mean,
to start. We didn't stay that way the first time.
Right. But at the time, like the first time we went over there, me being not in control and just making out was incredibly hot.
Yeah.
And very stimulating, and it really kind of started opening up this world of like, wow, there's something to this, and there's something to this mental space, and this your biggest and best sex organ being your brain. And initially you took off my jeans, or you unbuttoned them, and you just pulled them down just a little bit. And just enough to put your hand down in my panties. And I can imagine, I mean, you could probably take it from there in terms of how wet and how open I was.
Oh, very wet and very open.
Yeah. And so, we kind of played for a little bit. We touched each other and we made out, and then that was kind of our first little play. It was just a couple minutes, and then Mr. Snow pulled up my pants and buttoned them back, which I think he enjoyed, kind of having that level of control.
Yes.
So, I mean, that was kind of the first taste into it. And then we kind of walked around and got a drink, and then came back to it. And the second time was much more intense and much more just incredible. So the second time we went over there, and at this point I'd had maybe another drink or two, so I was feeling a little bit more comfortable. I stripped down completely naked, and Mr. Snow again restrained me on that St. Andrew's cross. And I tell you what, being completely naked, kind of in a public area, because it wasn't, I mean, we weren't behind closed doors. It's a very public area.
Yeah.
People were walking around.
Yeah.
Being completely naked, completely exposed, without having any control, because my hands were restrained. Just that. Like, before Mr. Snow even touched me, before we kissed, before anything, just that was electric.
You were so exposed and so vulnerable and so open at that time.
Yeah, it was amazing.
That's one of those moments where, like, truly all the inhibitions had dropped.
Yeah.
All of them.
Yeah. And this has obviously happened now a week ago, and I've had a lot of time to really think and reflect and really just kind of process all of it. And one of the things that I keep coming back to, in this whole bigger, broader sense of balancing this lifestyle and the sexual exploration with my vanilla life. And I think about the amount of bandwidth, and really the headspace it takes to get to be in a place where you can be that vulnerable and that open, and that submissive. Because for me personally, in my job, in my career, even in my life, I'm in control, and I have to be in control in the areas of my life. With work, some of the things that I do are very sensitive, so I need to be in control of these things. I'm a very self-sufficient individual because I have 2 small children that I am in charge of when Mr. Snow is gone and he travels a lot. So I'm in control, right? I'm always that person. And to just be in a place where I 100% am not thinking about any of that. Like none of it.
Right.
I am 100% submissive and out of control. Was I cannot explain the level of just freedom
Yeah.
that felt like.
Yeah.
And as ironic as this sounds, almost empowerment.
Yeah.
You think about
because
like
you've given yourself the permission to let go.
Yeah, and you wouldn't think that being submissive would be equivalent to feeling empowered and
Right.
freedom.
Well,
But
and
there
it's important
is.
to note that as a part of that, you had given up control. You had not given up consent.
Yeah,
Right. So you still had that authority
sure.
over what does or doesn't happen.
Mhm.
But you in that moment had given up control. And we are both exhibitionists. And I was completely clothed at that time.
Yeah.
And you were completely naked. And we were kissing and touching.
Yeah.
And I was on my knees rubbing you. And you were on that cross, tied up, naked, as people were walking by.
Mm-hmm.
And I did not see the one thing about that I was disappointed is not the word, but like from my vantage point, because that St. Andrew's Cross is a little bit like kind of in a corner, I could not see, quote unquote, the audience that was behind us.
Right, you were facing me, which is also on the wall.
I was completely focused
Yeah.
on you, but I will say this, it was extremely hot to see and look at your face as you looked away. And I knew that you were looking at people watching.
Yeah.
That was extremely hot. And the way you were kissing me was almost like animalistic.
It was and I think about and what's crazy about this is there were no toys involved with this.
No.
There were no like floggers or like feathers or leather, nothing. It was 100% you and I.
And mental, yeah.
And 100% mental.
Yeah.
And it was the most intense. I didn't realize how intense and I'm going to use the word carnal.
Yeah.
It really became.
Right.
And
I was
pulling on the restraints.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how much I was pulling on them.
Well, and I think the thing that was really, there were several things that were amazing about it. For one thing, it was not in any way demeaning.
No.
It was not like I'm bossing you around and telling you what to do and
right.
I'm in charge of you or anything like that. It wasn't in any way degrading or demeaning or anything like that. We had no real need for impact play or anything. It was literally purely focused on that relinquishment of control.
Right. And I think
that exposure.
Right. And I think that is
you
something.
were on the cross facing out.
Right. Right. I was
so you
out.
were facing forward. I mean, you could do it either way. A lot of people will face the cross part.
Right.
You were the other way,
which I don't think I'd want it any other way. I think I'd want to face outward.
And there was a moment or two adjacent to this cross. There was that sort of bench thing that we talked about. And then just on the other side of that was this little small table.
Yeah.
And we had both set our drinks down on that table. And there was this moment as we were kissing and touching, and I was rubbing her, and she was kind of squirting all over the place. And I just smiled and stopped. And I walked away to the other side. I think to take a drink of my whatever that was.
That was not why you went.
I don't remember what I did over there, but I turned around and I looked back from across that little alcove. And there you were, completely naked, strapped to that cross, just waiting for me to come back.
Yeah.
And that was, oh man, that was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was so intense.
Yeah.
And it was so like you were there and you were soaking wet and you were so horny and you were just waiting for me.
Yeah.
That was an amazing feeling. And then I walked back over and we played a little more. And we were probably on that thing for, it felt like a really long time. It was probably somewhere between 8 and 15, not even 15 minutes, I bet.
Yeah.
It might have been like 10 minutes before I gently released your hands and I walked you a few steps forward onto that bench.
Yeah.
And you lay down on that bench and we proceeded to finish you off.
Yeah.
And
you were still fully clothed at the time.
I'm still fully clothed. And that part of it was super hot. Like the fact that you were completely naked and I was still completely clothed was super hot. It added so much to the, like, just the exposure element of it.
Mm-hmm.
But Mrs. Snow squirted like I have never experienced in my life. It was, squirting is not the term. You were gushing. It was, oh my God, it was amazing. And I know different people have different feelings about squirting. I am a massive fan. And it feels like you have won a trophy. And I basically, yeah, that was like the Super Bowl of squirting. It was incredible. And then we had quite a mess to clean up.
Yeah.
But it was all around. It was an amazing experience. And for me, it was so, because like you, I had always connected all that stuff. I had lumped it all into the same boat.
Right. Like this whole dom sub, you just picture someone like on their knees with a leash.
Yeah, and
you
leather,
know what I mean? Like
leather and helmets and spanking and floggers.
And I'm not knocking
stuff.
that at all.
No, not at all.
But I think, and I think why this experience was so powerful for me was because it opened up this whole new world of these power dynamics.
Yes.
And how they can play into sexual exploration and this environment.
Right. And I think, when we talked with Tina several episodes ago, one of the things that I said to her was that I had always imagined or viewed BDSM as kind of like mean, and not like genuinely mean as then people are really being awful to one another, but the whole like
pain pleasure,
and like, calling people names and degrading people and stuff was like, I always thought that's what it was.
Mm-hmm.
I have learned so much just from this one little experience, in that this experience, although I was clothed, you were completely naked, and you were restrained, and it was very public, and people watched this. Like, people watched this happen. It was very loving.
Right. It was this. It was very intense, but there was this amazing feeling of connection.
Yeah.
And it's so funny, you hear these words and you're like, how does this make sense? But it was just an incredibly intense, intimate.
Yeah. Very, very intimate.
Yeah.
Very intimate.
I think
frankly, it was kind of an emotional experience.
Yeah. And I remember Gav, I think, talking about this. I don't know if Tina mentioned the whole concept of aftercare.
Yeah.
And I think in that context, they were talking about more related to impact play. However, because we had this very intense experience, I completely understand what they mean by aftercare, what they mean by that. I think about our experience in that it being very public and very erotic and exposed and all of those things. And I think I'm all about that and getting super turned on and all that. But I think I would want the aftermath of that. Like after, I mean, we can even have public sex and that and like get off and have orgasms and all the things, but I understand and would crave that alone, just you and I, intimate reconnecting.
Yeah.
After.
And I feel the same way. And in fact, I've even heard people talk about, I hate to use the word dom because that kind of takes my perception back to a place where I don't think this is, but like the person who is like administering this sometimes also needs aftercare. Like sometimes that's emotional even for that person. And what we talked about this on the trip home is that it would be amazing another time when we do this to take you all the way to orgasm on the cross instead of taking you down and finishing you not that way. But I think we could definitely do that. But I think the way we would want it to go is that we would have that experience, that very public, very loud experience,
right?
Take you all the way to orgasm and then very gently take you down and maybe clean up a little bit. And then you and I disappear into a private space and close the door, close the world out for a while and just be us.
Well, and kind of come down from that.
Yeah.
You know, it is, I don't think I can say the word intense enough. I understand because I know in some of the conversations that we've had with others about this type of play, they talk about it potentially being very emotional.
Yeah.
And sometimes people kind of have that emotional release.
Yeah.
Which sometimes includes tears.
Right.
And I totally see how that happens because you're bringing all of this up to the surface.
Yeah.
And having this very overwhelming, intense
release,
crazy experience and needing that release.
Right.
And sometimes that release would include just that kind of emotional output. Yeah. And so obviously I didn't get to that. I mean, that wasn't where we were, but having just had this baby experience, if you will, like I totally see how all of these dynamics and how bringing this up, you know, and kind of working myself up or working Mr. Stone or working people up.
Right.
How that plateaus and how that, yeah.
Well, and it, for me, this was something this experience was something that you and I both reflected on, I think, for several days.
Yeah. We had a lot of after conversations about it.
We did. And it's probably the most intense sexual experience that I've ever had.
Yeah.
I've had plenty of sexual experiences that were wild, interesting, or whatever. But this is probably the one that I the most played with my headspace a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think yours too. And what I was overwhelmed with a couple of days after the event was I suddenly had this sort of like emotional, like, oh my God, like I can't believe she trusted me enough to do that. You know, that she was willing, and we've been married and we've been together and we're this super close, whatever. But even like, despite all that, she trusted me enough to take her to this place, knowing that I wasn't going to hurt her.
Yeah.
And that is huge. And it's also, it makes me really think a lot about the need to do this sort of play carefully.
Yes. I mean, I think of all of the, you know, episodes and podcasts that we've done and the discussions that we've had and the conversations with other people and interviews, this level and absolute requirement to have this open communication within this relationship. You have to be able to feel comfortable, safe, vulnerable on so many layers. And you're right. I mean, we've been married for almost 12 years. We've been together for almost, 18 years. I mean, we have a very close, very good relationship. And even still thinking that there's a whole new layer of vulnerability, that in and of itself was like, wow, that's
well,
insane.
and it's one thing to do sexual things. It's one thing to have a threesome or a moresome or whatever.
A moresome?
You know,
What's a moresome?
Yeah, whatever.
I haven't heard that term.
Sure. It's one thing to do all that stuff. And that stuff is all very exciting, and it can all be very intense all in its own way. But what I noticed with this one, more so than any other sexual experience that we've had, is in order for you to reach that place that you did, and I mean this more mentally than physically, you had to take all the armor off.
Right.
Like, you had to completely let your guard down. And, we use the word submit. And I always, again, my perception of BDSM and because I'm uninitiated, I always viewed the word submit as like, I'm going to let you be my boss, right? I'm going to let you boss me around.
I'm going to let you tell me what to do.
Tell me what to do and stuff like that. And that is what happened. But what I realized in this scenario with us, what submitting meant here was, I'm going to completely give myself to you.
Mm-hmm.
Not in a controlling, demeaning way, but more of I'm going to completely let my guard down here, and I'm going to roll with this.
Yeah.
And that is a extraordinarily raw mental space to be in. And that is not a place where you want to mess around with a person.
Yeah. I mean, I
feel like there's real opportunity to do damage to a person in that scenario if you're not careful.
Right. I mean, the level of trust, the level of just trust and ability to be that vulnerable.
Yeah.
Is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And we talked about this on the way home as well, about how do I flip that switch? In this case, for this day, we had all day together, away from our vanilla lives.
Yes.
Right.
It took us all day.
It took us all day. We were also, and we
situation.
did some sexy things as well in terms of like that boudoir shoot and that kind of thing. But we had all day together.
Right.
Just you and I,
right,
with no work, no kids, no nothing. Right. So we had all day together, and then we had this experience at the club, and then we knew we had made arrangements to stay overnight, so we had all night and knew we had the next morning.
Right.
So there wasn't like this thought of, I have to get home because I have to get up tomorrow morning and be mom.
We had the freedom.
We had the freedom,
right?
And I think about how that played into this whole thing.
Sure.
Because I don't know how easily it would have been, if we had a club that was down the street from us and we just got a sitter for 4 hours, if I would have been able to get in that same space for us to have an experience like that.
I don't know. I do wonder. I totally understand what you're saying, and I totally agree with you. I do wonder is this something that you kind of get used to?
Well,
is this something that after you've done it a few times, it's easier for you to get yourself into this place?
Probably.
I don't know, but I do think it is something that you need to approach carefully, and you need to give yourself the time for.
Yeah. Because I think, we've talked about this kind of thing, and you and I have kind of piss poorly engaged with kind of you being in control of me, and we've always just kind of laughed it off, and we've always
we can't get into it.
Can't get into it. It's
like we can't take it seriously.
Right. But I think because we had been in this space to do that, it really allowed for us to really
engage in
it and surrender ourselves to it.
Yeah. And the other thing that I thought of that I now understand better, I've heard that when Tina does these sort of demonstrations, they, in the BDSM world, they refer to these as scenes.
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 Oh yeah.
From movies, like scenes. And it makes sense because honestly, similar to our experience, it's like kind of a complete evolution in and of itself, from like the beginning all the way through to the end, right? Well, in what Tina has described is that these scenes in the BDSM community are usually extremely quiet.
Yeah.
People will watch. There will be an audience, but the audience does not speak. The audience is not talking to each other. They're not making noise and ruffling around.
Yeah.
They're literally just quietly watching. And Tina, my understanding, is if you don't follow these rules, she will punish you for it.
Yeah. But I think about...
But I get that, though, because that, for us, like that, there you get kind of like in this trance state with the whole thing.
Well, and as much as I love public play, and as much as I love the idea of multiple men or people touching me and engaging, right? I don't want that in this scenario. Like, I don't want this in this case.
Right.
Like, this is very much just about you and me.
Right. You like the exhibitionism side of it.
Right. But I don't want the engagement of others.
You don't want people to touch you.
No. The only person I want to touch is you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I get that. And I feel kind of the same way. We've talked about this. How would we do it if we had like a Tina there or somebody else who was very experienced in doing this? Like, how would we do it?
Mm-hmm.
Would we want them to participate or not? And I kind of like your idea of not.
Well, it's such an interesting concept to have such what I describe and what I feel would be an incredibly open, intimate experience very publicly.
Yeah.
But not want to engage the public.
Well, but you are engaging the public. I mean, you're putting on a show for them being there and watching you is very much part of the experience.
Yeah, that's
for them
true.
And for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know it is for me, and I think that's a very intense part of the whole thing. And actually, that's something I was going to ask you on the subject of it being public and exhibitionism and so forth. If we put up a St. Andrew's cross in our bedroom, do you think we could recreate that kind of scenario? And I'll say this, I don't think so.
No, because it's not just like a random Saturday night thing to do in our house.
No.
I can't have a basket of laundry next to the St. Andrew's cross.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
And really and truly get into it.
Yeah, I think part of the whole experience is being in a club, being in an environment that is just a very highly sexual, high sexual energy environment.
Right.
And I also think for me, having an experience like this is not something that I want to do all the time.
No, I think it'd be too much of a good thing.
Yeah.
Right. So here's my question to you.
And every time we go to a club that would have this, I don't know if I would want to engage with it. You know what I mean? Like, you really have to be in a specific place, I think.
I think so too. And I think I would leave it alone. I think I would leave it for you to ask me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, I think it would be better left for you to ask me, hey, will you put me on the cross?
Mm-hmm. You just want me to say that.
I do want you to say that, but I want you to say it and I want you to actually want it. So here's where we'll leave this and the question I have for you. So now that we've had this experience and we've learned this, both of us have learned about ourselves through doing this. If we were going to do it again, how would you like it to go? And what would you like a little bit more or different?
I want more of an audience.
It was a pretty quiet night that night.
Yeah. I think I would be open to some of the impact pieces, not necessarily with pain, but like just, for example, like a feather or something kind of just rubbing up and down on me.
You know,
like that sensation.
Do you think? So here's what I worry about with the feathers and all the stuff. If I tickle you, is that going to ruin the mood? Is that going to ruin it?
Well, you know, what's funny.
Would that break you out of that?
It's interesting you say that because I will tell you in that moment, there was nothing ticklish about anything, even though I'm sure in other contexts, I would have felt that was ticklish.
Yeah.
Because it was not a giggly, that was not the vibe, right? Like,
well, but that's what I'm asking is like, if I hit you with a feather or something and it tickled, Do you think it would break the mood, or do you think it would add to it?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think it would break it.
Yeah.
I think you would be able to kind of read my responses
Yeah.
to really curb what you're doing.
Well, and I think I would only go certain places with it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't take it some places that I know there's like just super.
And I think there are
you.
certain textures of objects that you would use that wouldn't be ticklish.
Right.
But would give you that sensation.
Sure. What about impact?
I think you spanked me a little bit.
A little bit.
I'm okay with that. In my head, I think like just spanking with hands. But I know floggers can kind of have some of that. They can be very soft. I don't really want to be whipped. I feel like that in and of itself is a very tricky line.
Yeah.
And balance with
Right.
with something that's bordering on painful.
Right.
Or you know what I mean? You did squeeze my nipples a couple times, and in those moments it hurt, but it felt so good.
Yeah.
But I think it really just speaks to that level of climax and intimacy and intensity of
Right.
feelings.
Right. And you.
So I can see how like those like whips and things that are a little bit more quote unquote painful would have similar effects.
Yeah. Well, and you like to have your pussy spanked.
I like when you slap it. And here I am, wide open and exposed and very, very turned on. And you just kind of rubbing me down there and just popping me. Oh, yeah, that's really hot.
Yeah. Yeah. So, last question. Next time, blindfolded or not?
Oh, that's a tough one. I mean, my first instinct is I want to have an experience where I'm blindfolded. I think I'm glad my first one was not.
Yeah.
Because when I think about the level of intensity that I had that I could see and how amazingly hot and electric that was, I would think being blindfolded would escalate that. And I don't want to jump in the deep end quite yet. Like I kind of want to build up to it,
build up to it. Yeah.
So I'm not opposed to it, but I don't know if I'm there yet.
Do you think the blindfold would take away from the exhibitionism enjoyment, or do you think it would add to it?
I think it would take away, especially if the audience is quiet.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't think you would want the audience to be loud. I don't want to hear somebody say something.
No.
In that moment.
I don't think I would mind. I got to really chew on this and really think about what I want there, but I don't think I would mind not being blindfolded, having some part of that experience, and then having part of it being blindfolded.
Oh, I see what you're saying. A little of
both, and then having that come off.
Yeah.
Because watching people watch that, I mean, that's pretty hot. Like that's part of it. That's
yeah.
pretty hot.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
like
yeah.
that's, I don't want.
Well, but what it does is it stokes the vulnerability. It stokes.
Oh, sure.
And that's what it is. It's the, you're not vulnerable if there's nobody there.
But I would need to know there were people there before I was blindfolded.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I wouldn't want to start blindfolded not knowing what's around me.
Yeah.
I would want to see everybody and then be blindfolded.
Was it pretty hot making eye contact with people while you were
Oh yeah,
that?
there was one couple that stopped and watched. And it was definitely hot watching them and kind of giving them the eyes and kind of smiling at them while you were playing with me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty hot.
So, and then after all of this was over.
After all of this, we went and just fucked each other's brains out.
And fucked each other's
in
brains
that big
out.
orgy room.
In that big orgy room next to that other couple.
Next to that other couple, which I got to tell you, they were pretty hot.
Oh, yeah.
I watched them and you watched them and we were just totally going at it. And we were referencing them during our little session. I was like, look at her. Look at him. They were fun.
Well, and you wanted seconds.
I did. I was really kind of hoping. God, I mean, and I understand. I'm not upset about it. Well, maybe I am a little, but like they were clearly in their own little world. We kind of kept looking at them, and I kind of tried to engage them, catch their attention. We even stood up next to their bed a little bit, kind of not next to them, but close to them, kind of watching. And I was so hoping that they were going to kind of look over and smile and say, come on over. But they were so entranced with each other.
Yeah.
They just weren't there.
Right.
But
you just wanted that day.
I did. He had a nice cock. I'm not going to lie. And watching him just rail her.
You were so jealous.
I mean, I had an amazing experience. I don't want to make it seem like but come on. Although you wanted some of her too.
I absolutely did.
I mean,
my gosh.
So don't act like it was just me.
And
we were both pretty thirsty.
And what's funny, I think that could have happened.
Yeah.
But the club was pretty empty.
Yeah, and they
night,
were closing.
And they were closing early. And
we had met them earlier in the night. I think that would have been a lot of fun.
I know, and it's my fault because whatever. But
live and learn.
Live and learn. So fantastic night at the club.
Wonderful experience. 5 stars. Would do again.
Oh, we'll absolutely do again.
Yeah.
And thank you so much to Club Princeton for, I don't know, just being there. Like they
being open and having lots of Clorox wipes. Yeah,
like they didn't invite us to come down or anything. This isn't sponsored in any way, but I don't know. Just thank you for doing you. And we'll absolutely be back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And hopefully this time, now that we've experienced it, and it's a good sized club. I mean, it's a big
club.
I think we will make another trip down there, but we'll make sure we try to include our friends. Because I think if we had like some of our friends with us, I think that would have been so much more of a fun experience. Been a riot.
Yeah. Although it might have changed our time on the cross too. So
yeah,
hard to say.
But I mean, you never know.
Scheduling sin field trips are becoming a thing. So that's started to happen. We're even kicking around. So
schedule your sin with us.
There you go. That's it. We're even kicking around this idea of maybe doing our snowball party. We'll see what happens with that.
Yeah.
Still in the works.
Yeah.
TBD. Also, on this episode, this is the episode that's going to run before our visit to the UK.
Oh, yeah.
And so I wanted to stick in here in this episode for anybody who might be listening in our UK audience. We're going to be at Liberty Elite for Vanilla to Vixen on Saturday, February 10th.
Right.
And we're going to be in town starting on Friday, the day before, staying at the Secret Hotel.
Right.
To Liberty Elite.
Yes, so exciting.
If you want to connect with us, to meet up, we would love to meet you, whether that be at Liberty or be at somewhere else in the meantime. But February 9th and 10th, we're going to be in the UK. We're going to be staying at the Secret Hotel near Liberty Elite. If you're interested in joining us, please reach out. You can hit us up via email at snowmilf, SNOMILF @yahoo.com. You can hit us up on Twitter at Scheduling Sin, or you can hit us up on our Discord, and the links for that are in the show notes.
Yeah, we are so excited about this trip, and it's starting to come together. We're finalizing some of our plans. We're having the conversations with all of our UK folks. We have things kind of getting settled and situated on the home front. And it's going to be a fun birthday bash for Mr. Snow.
It's going to be a blast.
I really feel like I'm throwing down the gauntlet for your big 40th, and so mine's later this year. So we'll see what you bring.
Sure. I think I'm just going to bring several big cocks, and you'll be happy as a clam.
Listen, yeah.
I mean, we don't have to go anywhere. We can do that right here in town.
Yeah.
Mrs. Snow finally gets her gangbang.
Oh my gosh. That's what I want for my birthday. That seems like that's a progression in life, right?
Check.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, sure. Mrs. N was suggesting that the two of you get joint gangbangs at Vanilla to Vixen.
Now, are 2 gangbangs together gangbangs, or is it an orgy, or what does that even mean?
I don't exactly know. I think
gangbangs are just 1 female to X amount of males, right?
At least 3 males and 1 female.
Okay. But
so I think the 2 of you
females,
would need 6.
Right, but if you have 2 females and 6 males, is that an orgy or a gangbang?
I think it depends on whether you kiss Mrs. Snow.
Oh.
I don't know. I don't know for sure. I don't know. Who keeps track of this stuff? I don't know.
I don't know. What does Urban Dictionary say?
We got to ask Misty and Lee. They usually know.
Yeah, they're good for that. Oh my gosh. Well,
So
it was a fun and amazing experience with the photo shoot and the club experience, and just having more than 24 hours of not being vanilla.
right.
Like being able to be 100% me and be just a wife and a woman and just away from my responsibilities of life. And I think that in and of itself, even if we didn't do all of the dirty things that we did, I think would have just been amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I am so grateful and excited to be on this amazing adventure with you.
Likewise.
And I look forward to our UK adventure. I'm so excited about this trip.
So much more fun to be had.
Because it's not 24 hours. Like, we're going to be gone for like 5 days away from life and work and children. So by the time we come back, we're probably going to be like, okay, our sex card is full for like a month. Don't touch me.
Yeah,
like,
don't touch me. Keep all your clothes on. Gonna walk around in a parka.
Yeah.
And then we're just going to fuck like monkeys anyway after we get home. Well, Mrs. Snow.
Well, Mr. Snow, I love you.
Our next episode will be coming from the UK.
I know. I'm so excited.
Okay. Until
We're
next
calling
time.
it the Snow Invasion. Snow Invasion.
Or Project Snow MILF.
Project Snow MILF. All right, Mr. Snow. Well, let's maybe do a little reconnecting before we have to get back to our vanilla lives.
I'd love that.
Ta-ta for now.
Bye.
We want to hear from you. Email us at snowmilf@yahoo.com. That's SNOMILF@yahoo.com. You can also join us on our Discord and have some fun interactive conversations with us. The link is in the show notes. Talk to you soon. I can't say talk dirty to me.
Well, you can't sing it.
Well, I don't think I would qualify what I do as singing.
You're fucking not wrong about that. All right, so
Can I caterwaul it?
Jesus. My phone is in silent.
Mine is also in silent.
Silent but horny.
Silent but horny.